All right, everybody, in this video, we're going to go through kind of what we'll call a midwinter update. Looking at the cow herd, all the different age groups of cows we've got right now and calves, telling you how we feed them, how we manage them, kind of get them through these colder, nastier winter months. Wouldn't know that by today. It's beautiful today, the first nice day we've actually had in a while, where the sun has shined. But we're also excited to say we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to give away a hat at the end of the video. So stay tuned to get the details for how to enter and have a chance to win one. But as always, we want you to hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. With that said, let's dive right in. Midwinter update, even though I guess it's January 3rd, we're officially only 2 or 3 weeks into winter, but kind of approaching here in the next few weeks anyway, what'll be kind of the midpoint of our hay feeding season, or the season where we're not having a lot of good grazing. It's our newest baby, you may be able to see right there on the other side of that mama. But anyway, kind of going through feeding the hay, other ways we're feeding them, and we'll talk about cow herd versus bulls versus our weaned calves that were born last spring, kind of last with our feeder steers that we're feeding out, feeding to finish. But we'll get a little hay put out and talk about that. All right, so talk just a little briefly about our different styles of hay feeders. This is actually the only one kind of this design, kind of a cone style feeder. See, it's still got a little hay in it from the last roll, but the hay actually sits up off the ground. It's supposed to reduce waste a little bit. I do like this one just fine. They still do waste some. You can actually see right there where we just moved it from. So yeah, it's not 100% waste free, but works pretty well. We do have to take the wrap off on this style because otherwise it's hard for them to get to it with the wrap still on. I prefer to take the wrap off also, just because once they've eaten a roll, it's hard to gather it all up. And if you leave it out here, it's a mess. It gets wrapped around axles. If you ever wanted to do any sort of tillage or renovating pastures or anything, it's going to get tangled around everything. So generally we take it off if we're feeding out of just one of the ring style hay feeders, that you can see kind of a similar one over there that's made out of that same plastic material. We a lot of times will leave it on those just because they waste a lot. If you take the wrap out, it falls out. My one complaint about that type of feeder. So we usually keep that feeder tucked away somewhere where if the wrap does get left behind, it's not anywhere where it's going to be out in the middle of the pasture and thing. We do feed too, I'll mention. Say we've got several rolls in the ditch, kind of the water way there. That's some older hay, not quite as good a quality, or just older really. It was essentially off the same farm as all the rest of this, but use that for kind of erosion control. They'll pick and eat at those some a little. Of course, we do leave a wrap on them, but anyway, we'll get this hay put out and move on. All right, so you can see we got the wrap off this one. Kind of starts to come apart as we do so. We'll drop it in there. Ease her on down. All right, now we're moving on. And two, I should mention, as I'm sure you noticed, I've got my helper sitting right there next to me. This is actually a new to us tractor that we just got about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And had a few reasons for upgrading. One, we did want a little bigger tractor. This is 135 horsepower versus our old one was 99. And two, we wanted a buddy seat. Being that my buddy is with me oftentimes when we're out doing things like this, I can't begin to tell you how nice it is to have an actual seat, and it's safer too. He's buckled in, a lot less potential for problems there than with him just riding in my lap or sitting in the window kind of thing. But yeah, we'll give you a little better close-up on the outside of the tractor here in a minute as well. So give you a little more of a close-up of the tractor as Willis tries to honk the horn. Yeah, it's a Kubota M135 GX. Yeah, just a little bigger tractor. Yeah, who doesn't like more horsepower? But walk up here and show you another style of hay feeder, and probably even my favorite one we have, which naturally it's also the most expensive. There, he found the horn. And probably our biggest challenge we have this time of year is that right there, mud. We're constantly having to move the hay rings. We're moving right now just over there because, you know, one of the things about here in the South and West Tennessee, it doesn't get that cold, which is good and bad. I mean, the cows just don't have to endure those brutally cold temperatures, but our ground never really freezes, not for any length of time. We'll get a good hard freeze here and there, but just doesn't last. He's gonna wear that horn out, isn't he? But one thing I like about this feeder, if you can tell, there is still some hay in there, but they waste very little. Very little ends up outside of it. The upper ring, I don't know if you can tell, the video is what, probably 12, 18 inches narrower than the bottom. And so any feed as it drops is gonna stay inside of there. So I just really like that design. Again, naturally it is one of the more expensive ones that we have. But it does do best if you feed them up on end like that. We'll take that wrap off. They're very heavy, especially in all this mud. We have to use the tractor to move them, but yeah, we're constantly moving where we're feeding. You can see moving just a little ways over here where it's a little drier ground, but mud's probably our biggest challenge, probably the thing that, you know, we have to worry about the most this time of year. One reason we almost thought about calving in the fall more than the spring in the past was, you know, calve in October, November when you're not having to deal with all the mud yet. But then trying to get cows bred back this time of year, it's just, you know, it's a little harder on them, you know, getting good conception rates. You know, so when we do start calving in March, we'll be nearing the end of our time feeding hay because we want to get them away from here and not have calves, newborns right around all this mud. But we'll get this one unwrapped and move on. That ring put around there. All right, so we'll talk about the bulls briefly. They are fed through the winter very similarly to the cows. Free choice hay. Instead of the liquid protein feed, we use just the protein tubs, just because we don't have another liquid feeder. Tubs are a little easier when you just got a couple. When we feed them, they get about 3 to 4 pounds of feed per day, so a little more than the cows on average. But a lot of that's because they're both still young and growing. But there they are. You see, feeding them out of just one of those hay rings. Still leave the net wrap on that one, but got kind of a wash problem here. So whatever they waste tries to help control that washing. But over on the right, that's who the kids have named Blueberry. He's a Brangus bull. He's actually 3/4 Brahma, 1/4 Angus, and then our Angus bull as well. But anyway, very similar to the cows. And I guess I should point out, really all the animals, regardless of age group, have free choice, loose mineral available as well. We do that year round. The exact type of mineral we use changes from, you know, season to season, but that's available in addition to other feeds. All right, and there's just the protein supplement they get. Call those lick tubs. I believe it's a 25% protein, but just the difference between that and the lick wheel feeder. All right, and so our feed, our pelleted feed we get delivered stays in this bigger bin here. We got corn in the smaller box bin there. The feed that we're feeding is actually, it's what we call a 50-50 pellet. It's 50% corn gluten pellets, 50% soy hull pellets, but pretty cost effective, good feed source for them this time of year. That's the feed. When we talk about feeding that 2 to 4 pounds, that's what the cows are getting, the bulls, and also our weaned calves just up the road. Then we also keep a little of this in the creek feeder. I guess we didn't really talk about that, but the creek feeder out there in the pasture for those fall calves that are still with their mamas. So, and every now and then we'll get them to deliver something a little different, but that seems to be what we've been sticking with primarily for the last few months. Kaylin and the kids taking advantage of the nice sunny weather this afternoon riding. Honey, you're not camera shy apparently. Say hello.
Ow.
Hello.
Wow.
What's your pony's name, Kimber?
Jenny.
All right. Lick wheel feeders not just for the cows. A few of the fall-born calves over there getting a little lick, getting a little protein supplement. And now they've moved on to the creek feeder. The feeder's actually out of feed, so until the feed truck comes again, we just put 150 pounds in there by hand once a week or so. But just a little extra boost for those fall-born calves. So when the feed truck comes, we get them to put a ton or so of feed in there, and keeps us from having to do it manually. But in between his trips, we can do that to get by. All right, so who doesn't love seeing babies? That's actually not the youngest one. There's another one around there somewhere, but this is another just basic ring style feeder. You can feed it standing up on end or over on the side. I like it better than those black plastic ones like the bulls are eating out of over there. Just the bars are a lot closer together, not as much falls out, and you don't have as much waste. But anyway, we'll see if we can show you the babies. Is that the newest baby there? No, still not the newest one. Let's see if we can find her around here somewhere. That's her right there actually, but she's got a good mama. She's actually out of a first calf heifer that I really like. But of course, this was the first roll of hay we put out. They haven't really realized that we put out 3 others, so once they figure that out, they'll scatter about. But that's basic hay feeding the cows. And I guess went through the protein supplement, give them a little extra feed. Of course, they got mineral and water. But yeah, I guess now we looked at the bulls. We need to go see the weaned calves just up the road that were out of this herd of cows, but were born back in the spring. And then we'll finish up with the feeder calves. And I have more on the hat giveaway. So to be eligible, to be in the drawing for that, you need to do 3 things. Number 1, like this video. 2, subscribe to the channel. And 3, leave a comment below on this video. Just say hi, ask a question, whatever. We'll randomly pick somebody out of that group. If you're not here locally, we'll get your mailing address and send you a hat. But anyway, I guess that's kind of I was going to do it like when we hit 100 subscribers. I think we're actually close to 150. Not a lot by any means, but we're growing. Thanks to you guys out there that are watching. But anyway, we'll move on and look at those others. And it looks like we have at least one smart one that has figured out that we did put out more than just 1 roll of hay. So she's got this one all to herself right now. But you can see kind of how they eat out of that one. We'll pull over here to this other type feeder and kind of show you what I don't like about it. Fire it up here. Sadie up ahead somewhere. See, there's where they had just had that feeder. We're sitting right there, so they do waste some with it still. This style feeder, we actually left the wrap on that roll. Maybe yet to really totally clean it up. But with that style feeder, if you don't leave the wrap on it, it just falls completely out. Just the way it's made, the bars are too wide apart. So we kind of keep it tucked away around, you know, these pine trees or along the ditch or somewhere where we're not as worried about leaving the wrap behind potentially, and creating the messes and hazards it creates. But those are good type feeders in terms of, you know, should last forever being made of that heavy plastic, but just not the greatest in terms of reducing waste. All right, so now we're right here up the road. Talk about the weaned calves. They're very similar to the cow herd in that keep the free choice Bermuda grass, round hay, and hay ranged over here. They get probably between 3 and 4 pounds of feed per head per day. Just 15 of them here. These were our springborns that we weaned back 2 or 3 months ago. They're all, I think the youngest ones were born like early to mid-May, so call them say 8 to 10 months old. But they've got, like I said, hay, get about 3 to 4 pounds of feed a day. We also have a protein lick tub over here for them, just like we do for the bulls. But that's where they are. We'll move them back out of here. Try to think before we get our stocker steers in, which will be like late February, early March, early to mid-March probably. The steers will probably stay here and run with the rest of the stockers. We'll move the heifers back to the house, decide which heifers are going to make good replacements, which ones that we'll probably just send to auction. Check stock tank over here. No ice on there this morning. Got down to right at freezing last night, but not quite cold enough. Mineral feeder, one just like some of the ones we've been building at home. Today is just January the 3rd, but I believe we can honestly say this is the first time we've seen the sunshine this year, so shaping up to be a really nice day. All right, and so our feeder steers, there are, yes, 7 of them in there. And so these are steers that we're feeding to finish. I think 3, the ones with the pink tags, or pink ID tags, were from our stocker herd that we didn't sell with the rest of the group. These 3 turned out to be the lucky ones just because they didn't cooperate the morning we caught them and shipped them. Then the 2 Brahma cross you see there, and there are some that we had raised here. And then other 2 are from family. One out of my damn uncle's herd, and one from my cousin. Which, speaking of that, y'all check him out. He has a YouTube channel as well, LH Farms. He more row crop centered, because that's really what he does. But pretty good channel. Check him out. Anyway, we'll show you kind of how we feed them. All right, so as those boys are all standing there getting their evening meal, very makeshift setup we have here, but it works. Got them a place where they can get in here out of the rain in the dry and eat. It's kind of expanded their pen here over the last week or two, just because as it's gotten muddier and muddier, just to give them more room and keep them out of the mud all the time. We've opened up this part of the barn as well, where they've got plenty of good dry area out of the rain to eat. But feeding them mainly this corn-based diet. Feed them twice a day. They're up to, and where they'll really go from here on, about 2% of their body weight in corn a day, and then feed them a protein supplement. There we get from the co-op. It's, I believe it's 36% protein with monensin in it as well. But a program actually developed, a feed program. I got the water turned on over here. Oh, we're still in good shape. It was actually a University of Tennessee Extension paper or program outlining, feeding out a small number of beef cattle for freezer beef. I'm using this exact plan. A lot of people think you can't feed cattle whole shell corn, and while cracked corn or rolled corn is more digestible, Usually you'll see the figure between 5 and 10% increased adjustability. When you've got a small number like this, that extra processing, taking that extra step just really doesn't pay off. I mean, this is whole shell corn. You can't get any more local than this beef right here. They're born and raised right here. The corn they're being finished out on was grown just right up the road. Right now it is kind of a pain. You see, we get the corn out of a feed bin up there, haul it down here 2 or 3 times a week in those tubs in the back of the side-by-side. But it's a little labor intensive to do that. But we had actually just ordered a mobile grain bin, so not quite as big as the one up there that's stationary, but will hold a fair amount of feed, I think 3 tons. We can just back right into the barn here, and so it'll be a little more convenient once we have it. But anyway, we make this work. Got 7 head on feed right now, that we'll sell locally to some family and friends, for a locally raised product. But they're all pretty happy and content. But that kind of, I think, may wrap up all the animals. Yes, went through the cow herd, including the calves on their sides right now, the fall-born calves, the weaned calves, that were born back in the spring, the 2 bulls, now the feeders. So yeah, that's really all the animals, and kind of how we go through things this time of year. And 2, we focus just on feeding. The other things we're doing kind of in getting ready for the spring, getting ready for calving, and then getting them bred back. We pulled soil samples just before Christmas, so 2 weeks ago now. Waiting to get those results back. Sent them by USPS to the state lab, so Lord only knows if they've made it there yet. We still have Christmas presents that haven't come in that I ordered like a month ago. So anyway, hopefully those samples eventually get to the state lab. We'll get those soil test results back. We know we need some lime on the other farm, but help us also make our fertilizer decisions. And yeah, really getting ready for and looking forward to having some green grass in the spring. But again, remind you to like and subscribe. Also, we'd love for you to share the video as well. Again, leave us a comment below. We're going to pick somebody, give away a hat, and we remind you to eat beef, and God bless. Thanks for watching.